Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I'm your host, Chris Cosentino. We are here to talk about people that inspire, and all my guests are inspiring in so many different ways. And I'm really looking forward to digging deep into how they got to where they are, to the top of their game, how hard they've worked, how much they've given up, and how they're giving back. So without further ado, here's our next guest. Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. Today, I am with Lawson Craddock. I think he's in Austin. I'm not sure.
That's right.
But
yeah.
For those of you who don't know who he is, incredible athlete, currently wearing stars and stripes for time trial in the US, and going to be shifting to a new team in 22, but has been with EF, I think, for 8 years, if I'm right.
6 years. Yeah. Been pro for 8 years, and then, EF was 6 years. Yeah. Thanks for having me. So I'm very excited. Yeah. I'm glad we were able to make this work,
It's crazy. I mean, you and I have been in contact for a while, and I've been, when you're racing, I'm pinging you like, are you eating right? Busting your chops. Yeah. I do owe you a steak dinner still from Most Aggressive Day, which was awesome to see and watch. So, you're from Houston originally, correct?
I am from Houston. So I grew up there, and about 10 years ago after high school, I moved to Austin. So, and I've been here mostly ever since. Now since I turned professional, I split my time between being between Austin and Girona in Spain. And I got a family now, wife, 2 kids, and it's crazy how fast, life comes at you and how quickly things change. It's incredible. But here we are, and I'm almost 10 years into my career, and pretty incredible.
So you started, if I'm correct, on the Velodrome in Houston, and you started a charity to actually help rebuild it after Harvey.
Yeah. I grew up, I went out to the Velodrome for the first time when I was 10 years old. My dad's Houston, he was born there and raised there. And a long time ago, before he had kids, he also raced out of the Velodrome. And so that's why we're, kind of familiar with it. And we live super close to it, like 5-10 minutes away. And when I was, 10, my brother Parker was 12. My dad brought us out there and did this youth cycling camp. And that's how we got our start into it. And it got some damage during Hurricane Harvey, and that was in 2017. And then 2018, I was at the Tour de France, and on the first stage, I had a pretty tough crash and fractured my shoulder blade. And I was like kind of sitting there, I was like, oh man, I kind of need motivation to continue if I want to continue. I was like, well, let's just try and do something, good for other people, and started this GoFundMe for, to try and repair and rebuild the Velodrome, and it took off. It was crazy. So
let's talk about that year. Well, I mean, there's a bunch of different things, and we're going to kind of bop all over.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that year in specific. I mean, that, and you and I have talked about it offline privately, but, you told me, if I recall it correctly, that break, it was pretty demoralizing, but the concept of getting back on the bike and pushing through it and having the public as a whole getting so behind you kind of made it worthwhile to get back on and suffer.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, that whole experience just made me realize, like, kind of like the platform that we have as athletes, and the influence that we, can bring to others. So when I did crash, it's like I put a lot into making it there at the Tour de France. I had a terrible season the year before, to the point where I was like, man, my career might be done. So for me, making it to the start line, there was so much work and so much effort that I put into, and my family put into, just to get me there. And so, halfway through the first stage, when I crashed and immediately knew something was wrong, like, I was like, oh man, this is a bummer. But your first instinct is just to continue and go and push. And so I mean, that was pretty incredible for me to see, and see the reception that we had from it was spectacular. It really encouraged me and motivated me throughout the entire race, and I was able to finish the entire tour and quite a few hours behind the leader, but made it nonetheless. And it was definitely one of those moments that I think when I'm, when it's all said and done, and life beyond cycling, I think it's going to be one of the things I'm most proud about in my life. So
I think there's a lot to talk about when it comes to time that you're putting in. And you've already talked about the things that your family gave up, things that you gave up. I'd like you to talk a little bit about how much effort goes into, well, one, getting to where you turn professional, like how you pushed that level, but then to where you are now. I mean, you're just continuously, we've tried to schedule podcasts. I don't know how many times I'm like, hey dude, how about this time? You're like, nope, I'm not available till like much later in the day.
Yeah.
Training.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. It's like life comes at you fast. Like fast forward, I've got 2 kids and all this stuff. And sometimes when you look back, you're like, oh, that happened quickly. But, during the process, during, the journey that gets you there, it's so much stuff behind the scenes and so much daily effort that helps you get to that point. I was really fortunate to, like I grew up and I had great parents and a great family and great support system. And for me, my life was always centered around cycling. I started racing when I was 10 and just had the steady progression throughout the sport that allowed me to get to the top level. But there's so many steps along the way that you think, maybe I can't do this. Maybe, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not cut out for it. But those are moments that kind of really teach you about yourself and, make it to the other side and you realize how much you grow throughout the journey. So I'm definitely not the same person I started when I started riding when I was 10. I'm not the same person I started when I turned professional in 2014. I'm not even the same person as, I was when we started this podcast. So again, it's wild, you learn so much, you work so hard. I get asked all the time, like, hey, what does it actually take to be a professional? I've got good numbers. I win the local Cat 1 race all the time. Like, why can't I turn professional? It's so funny, but my answer is always like, it takes so much more than just, getting on a bike and hammering for 20 minutes or being able to ride for 3 hours. It's a daily grind, day in and out. It's the ruthless execution that you have to, just attack your training and your work with. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing about it is the passion to do what you love day in and day out, to get better constantly and always be finding ways to improve. And, there's so much more than just doing something, there's so much more. There's incredible backstory behind any journey through any sport, profession, job, life, and that's what gets you there. So it's pretty incredible.
When you start looking at all these experiences that you've had, velodrome, being in the road, racing in the tour, having a bad year. I mean, let's talk about that, like bad year, right? Like,
yeah,
shit goes pear-shaped, right? Like things happen. You may get hurt, you may overtrain, you may undertrain. I mean, there's so many components to it, right? Talk about because as I like to say this a lot, the measure of our success is how we deal with problems, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is just as applicable into what you're doing every day and part of your career. How do you deal with those down moments and how do you turn them around? Because a lot of people, once they stay down, they can't get out of being down.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think, looking at how to get out of those holes, and every life is a roller coaster. Everything you do is a roller coaster. There's just going to be good moments and bad moments. But I think the most important thing about the bad moments is just having a good support system around you. People that that you can always rely on. Surround yourself with people that believe in you and support you no matter what. And for me, I feel really fortunate to have my family there in my corner all the time, but also a really, really close group of friends that I know are also going to be there for me no matter what. So I think that's really important. But yeah, I mean, you talk about good years and bad years. I look back and in 2017, I had this like truly horrendous year. I was working with a different coach for the first time in basically my entire career, and I just did the wrong stuff from day one of to basically until my body just exploded in March. I more or less had to take the whole season off of racing. I just wasn't myself as a person and also as a cyclist. And I got to the end of the year and my first reaction was to blame the coach. I was like, this is his problem. Like he's the one that like put me into this hole and just like refused to get out, like and where I couldn't get out of it. And but it did take me on this journey of where I more or less like was able to discover myself. And the more time spending thinking about it and kind of, observing the whole situation, in the rearview mirror, I realized, like this is on me. This is my fault, like it's my body. I need to be the one that it needs to be able to speak up. I need to be the one that needs to at the end of the day do what I should be doing to put myself in the best situation forward. And I personally did not do that. And so it really just kind of, I had this epiphany. I was like, like you have to take take responsibility for your actions. Don't blame things on others. Don't say it's anyone else's fault when you screw up, and don't take credit for someone else's success and when it goes well. So for me, that was this terrible year that, I absolutely hated every second of it, in the middle of it. But personally, I'm so happy and so proud of what I did go through, that I came out the other side and really feel like I grew a lot and discovered actually who I am as a person, as a rider. And I think that, maybe in the moment was a bad year, but I think it's one of those important years of my life and career. So.
Yeah. It's like that saying, to make lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah.
Like, you got to turn it around and let's go back to that year, that you have this, I'll call it the collarbone year. The rattling of the bike, for those folks out there who have not ridden with a broken bone.
That sucks. Don't do it.
Exactly. I was just going to say that because I've done it.
Yeah.
Not to that extent. I've broken and had to get home.
Yeah, right.
Right out. And that's something else. But I can't imagine doing it for 21 days or 20 days.
Yeah.
The constant rattle of the bike is going to create a hum in the bone, which is going to make it rub, right? No matter how much tape or whatever you put on, or it's going to hurt.
Right.
But let's talk about what I like to call the aji-baji, riding in the big group, you got blows and bumps. And that's a skill set that I think, when somebody says to you, how do you get to be pro? Well, that is a skill that you can ride as fast as you want or be as fast as you can be. But unless you can ride in that group dynamic, that's like this, there's no room for error. And that's a big skill in my mind.
Yeah.
I look at it as a pro skill that can't be learned by going really fast.
No, for sure. I mean, that's something a lot of guys really struggle with. I mean, there's so many riders out there that are stronger than anyone in the peloton, but they don't know how to ride close to each other. Someone touches their elbow and they just slam on their brakes and can't deal with it. When I did fracture my scapula in the tour, I did spin the entire tour actually last wheel. I was surrounded by absolutely no one. I was like, I'm not going to put myself in danger. I'm just going point A to point B today. So, but that is definitely something that you have to learn. And it's such from the outside looking in, it's such an underrated part of being a professional cyclist. The constant fighting, the constant just stress and pressure. We have radios and the directors on the cars saying, we have to be at the front at this point. And with technology these days, it's like, with Google Maps and weather profiles and everything down to like, an exact point, exact science, like, there's no point that, there's no excuse to be caught out for any crosswinds or not prepare for what happens on the stage. And so as a result of that, it's constantly being said, hey, we need to be at the front here. We need to be at the front here. We need to be at the front here. And so when 180 people are hearing that in your ear, there's only room for like 20 of them actually, from side to side, maybe not, maybe 8, 5, these roads in Europe are just way too small. So it's incredible. I mean, like cycling is not just like who crosses the finish line first. It's just like such a basic way to describe the sport that couldn't be any further from the truth. There's so much that goes into it. There's so many tactics, so many team tactics that It's incredible. It's so much information that we have to, try and retain before the stage. There's so much, work that goes in that the directors have to do 6 months out. I think they just released the Tour de France and the Giro d'Italia route. I guarantee that the directors are sitting down right now, going from every single meter of the road from stage 1 to stage 21, looking for an advantage and looking for points that they need to be careful of. So it's insane. I mean, it's a crazy life, and it's just getting crazier and crazier,
I mean, there's so much forward movement, right? And I'm lucky that I live next to Bob Roll. Like,
Nice.
so I get a lot.
I bet you guys have some crazy conversations.
Oh yeah, so if there's a lot of moments during the tour when he's commentating and I'm texting him when it's live.
Yeah, really?
All the time. So if you ever see him live and he does one of these,
that's probably you.
Blame me. Sorry.
That's funny. Yeah, no, that's fine. But I grew up watching Bob Roll. Yeah.
It's awesome to hear his insight and see, from somebody who raced, has been to all these grand tours, been to all these events, but also talk about what it's like being in the pack, being in the back of the pack, leading somebody out, the feed zones. I mean, there's so many little intricacies that, again, go back to what is it like, or how do you get to be, I mean, it's like such a simple thing as a Musette pass off. That could just decimate a whole peloton if somebody does it incorrectly.
Yeah, that's what ruined my tour in 2018. We're in the feed zone and someone just dropped the bottle in front of me, and then I hit it and just went careening off the side of the road. So there's so much stuff that you have to be. I mean, a crack this wide could easily put you down. And we're always just on the limit. Always on the limit, and everyone's looking for any kind of advantage and trying to pass anyone. See an inch of room, they'll just go for it. Won't even think, just go for it. So it's, oh God, it's just madness. Like a lot of times you just you get to the end of the stages, like maybe physically it wasn't so demanding, but you're so mentally drained because for 5 hours you're just laser focused, and that's not how it was when I first started my career. I used to be able to have pretty deep and conversations in the peloton for 3 hours, and then you'd be like, oh, hey, sprint's coming up in 40K. We'll start taking it serious. Now it's just from the gun. You have to be on top of things.
And what are you at? You've seen a lot, and just like you said, you've seen the transition from when you started to now. What is it like with this new generation coming in that are cracking fast, right? Cracking fast, and they're kind of fearless because, and I just read a really interesting article which Fugelsang's saying there's not as much respect in the peloton as there was in years past, which is creating a little bit more of an aggressive feeling in the gruppetto, which is making it harder for people to get from point A to point B without
it's, I mean, like you said, we have so many young riders that are coming in and just dominating. Pogacar is he's on a different level than everyone else, and he's been in the pro peloton for 3 years now, and he's won the Tour 2 times. That's incredible. That's just stuff that we haven't heard before. It's or seen before. But I think there's something you said about technology has come such a long way that these young riders, they have power meters, they have access to pros information and power files from the second that they start riding a bike at 10, 12 years old. So they spend their youth basically just already knowing what they need to be doing, and they're doing crazy hours as young children and young kids and juniors. And I think that collectively the level in every single discipline, or more or less every level of the sport, has just become so much higher, so that the gap from the professionals to the U23s or juniors actually is not nearly as big as it was 10 years ago. But then these days riders are just looking for any and every kind of advantage that they can get. The green jersey is at the Tour de France is a huge accomplishment. And it's normally goes to the best sprinter, but now you have to realize you actually have to be able to do everything to win that jersey. You have to win the flat 180 man group sprints, but you also have to make the 40 to 50 man groups that sprint for the win as well. So that just increases the speed throughout the whole stage. The gruppettos are ruthless because it's almost on the big bounce stages. You have the sprinters battling each other, and you're like, okay, if the two top sprinters are off the back together, a lot of times it's like, okay, well, shoot, if we get this guy behind us, maybe he'll miss time cut, and then we'll put him in the red, and then he won't be able to finish the stage, and then we can just get rid of him altogether. So there's so many more dynamics. And none of that stuff is on TV. It's so much more. Yeah, like you don't see the stuff that actually happens. Like, you watch the leaders of the race, but that's about it. There's so much stuff and so many days that you get done. And yeah, the winner probably has the easiest day out of everyone. It's the guys from like 50th to 180th that just struggled for the whole day, just fighting to make the finish. And they're so glad, like, oh gosh, that's done. Man. I don't know why we're having this conversation in the off season, because it's supposed to be my relaxing time, and I don't have to deal with this for another 3 months. I think now I'm gonna have to relive all these like bad memories of.
Oh, come on! I think it's really important that people understand. Cycling races are like chess. There's so many different levels within a team. There's so many different levels of things happening on the road. There's so much more than what it is. And I mean, let's be honest. You're careening down a hill, massive. It's not a hill. It's a fucking mountain.
Oh yeah.
Careening down the hill in basically what I would consider a glorified underwear. So if you eat it, your superhero costume is shredded.
Oh yeah.
Right? Which means you are too. So people don't understand like the level of speed that you guys are going when you're descending, the amount of output you're putting to climb it. It's just so much. It's like, I can't ever I tried to explain this to somebody the other day. Imagine putting out 110 to 115% of your effort to get to this top of this hill where you're about ready to just retch your brains out.
Oh, yeah.
And then you turn around and have to go down functionally without seeing spots at about 45 to 50 miles an hour on a bike in a superhero costume. Right? Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, if we had like a cape on, that'd be much cooler. I'd feel much better about myself if I had a Superman cape flying behind.
You can do that. You do have the stars and stripes. We'll get them to make you a mini
right?
This long. It doesn't get hooked in the spokes.
Yeah, right? That'd be amazing. I mean, like, I think a lot of us also take advantage of our skill set. I mean, the amount of near crashes that we have in the peloton where you're just like, oof, that was close. Like, we don't realize like, oh man, that could have been disastrous, but it's just one of the things that happens, in these sprint finishes from the last hour of the race. There's so many times that, got a foot out, got one wheel like off the side of the road, like it's getting back on. It's just like, yeah, that's just part of it. That's just part of the game, that's just how it goes. So
it's crazy to watch it as a spectator on the television, but to stand on the side of the road and watch it is it's humbling. It's powerful. And it definitely makes you not yell at the TV anymore. It makes you not yell, go, 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 because there's no more go. If they're going, they got everything going at that moment.
Yeah. It's opened my eyes just being like on the inside of a professional sport. Maybe it's not the biggest professional sport, but you start watching like all these other, you watch football, you watch, basketball and TV, you're like, oh, why did he make that? That guy was wide open. Why did he not hit that for a touchdown? It's just like, I'm sure they're trying their best, like these guys are leaving it all out there. And like, there's only so much that the human body can do. So it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, and also it is strange. Like I haven't done the tour in a couple of years. And for the first couple, like, for 2 or 3 years, I was like, I don't even want to watch that. I was like, I should be there. I don't even want to watch. Like I felt bitter, but I turned it on last year. And I have to say, I much more enjoyed the sprint stages than the mountain stages, because the sprint stages are so unpredictable. And like, you really don't know. It's such an even playing field with the sprinters that we have, and knowing what goes on in those pelotons. Like I enjoyed it from 50, 60K to go. I was glued to the TV and just like, always looking like tactically, okay, where's this team? And then, then you see at the end, like who wins, and you're able to be like, oh, okay, like this is what they did right or wrong or whatever. But yeah, they are pretty incredible to watch because it's so dynamic and it's so fluid with so many different moving parts. Mountain stages actually is just more or less like, oh, okay, the poacher car's probably going to win. Yeah, that's fine, cool, good job. So I mean, it was incredible to see like Sepp Kuss win a stage today or this year, which is amazing to watch. But at the end of the day, it's like just who's strongest, and there's just a handful of guys. And we saw this year, there's 3 guys that were just on a different level. So,
isn't it interesting to see the difference from the years of when the climber jersey used to be Veronk, and there were just climbers, weren't part of the GC mix at all, and those guys were going for it, and that was like the whole coveted, and it was very rare that GC guy be the same as the climber's jersey. It's such a different dynamic nowadays.
Yeah, I think so, and I think probably a lot of that, or some of that, could be due to the rules in these races at the moment, and maybe if they want more of a fight for the actual climber's jersey, then maybe those need to change, like different scale of points for climbs and stuff, or different, like, you know. But if you have a GC guy, he's probably every mountain stage, you know, if there's not a breakaway, he's going to be in the top 3 getting, you know, 30, 40 points or whatever. And that's what we saw this year, you know, with Pogacar just dominating every aspect of the race and winning, I don't know, 3 jerseys or something. That's crazy.
That hasn't happened in a long time.
So, but no, it's definitely a different sport. I will say, I grew up, it was so exciting to watch these races, just because like the mountain stages were so unpredictable, because I mean, different era of the sport, don't get me wrong, but holy shit, they went up so fast. And you just see them just like an all-out sprints for like 20 minutes. It's just like in the drops, just like hammer, and you're like, that looks sick. Granted, they were getting a little bit of help on the side, but like, you know, like it looks sick from the outside. And yeah, so it's definitely a lot different now. And, you know, I'm pretty proud to be in the peloton that I am these days with you know, in terms of everything. But yeah, it is definitely a different and you know, different peloton, different way to race, and I think we're just constantly evolving as a you know, profession.
So, how do you feel that having the opportunity to live in Girona has benefited you? Because, you know, everybody's calling it the Boulder of Europe. Yeah. Right?
It's very popular amongst cyclists. We get spoiled. Yeah, we get spoiled, I think, mostly with wine, because we get like we just get incredible bottles of wine for like $7, and then you come here and you're like, sick, I got a 3-liter bag of juice with, you know, alcoholic juice for $12, you know, and like that's it. So we definitely get spoiled, you know, and we have 2 kids that we bring over, and we spent this year, we spent the whole year there, and they're in school there, and they go to school like 9 to 5, and we pay the same amount here for one of our kids to go 2 days a week from 9 to 1. So we definitely have a good life there, like outside of the sport. And I think we're really fortunate to have that, because a lot of riders don't. I just don't get the impression that they look at Europe as like I don't know, maybe it scares them or whatever, but they just don't want to go and enjoy it there. They just use it as like, I just got to be close to the races. But you know, my family and I, we've definitely put a lot of work into actually setting down roots and trying to, you know, have a community there that, you know, that we can rely on and be a part of, and I think that's been really important. So it's not like we travel to Europe and we live in Europe for half the year and then come home for the other half of the year. You know, we're home in Austin, and we're also home in Girona too, and I think that's been really important too.
So talk a little bit about the riding in Girona, because I hear it's epic. I'm jealous. I really want to go. I mean, maybe sometime I'll come over and, you know, I'll make a trade. We'll go for some rides and I'll cook some dinner.
Done.
We'll have some fun. But tell me, because I just hear like everything out of Girona is just incredible. It's like loops and climbs, and it's just epic.
Yeah, I mean, we take advantage of it so much, because everything about the area is amazing. Catalunya is beautiful. We have the Costa Brava, which are home to some of the best beaches in the world, I feel like, you know, 20 miles away from us. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest draw about Girona is that you have literally everything. There's other great places to ride in Europe for sure. But I feel like the weather's always really good in Girona. If you want to go for a flat ride, you can easily go for 5 hours and do minimal climbing. But if you want to go for a ton of climbing too, you can also, do 30, 40, 50-minute climbs, really close to Girona. So I think it's really great for training. It's absolutely beautiful. The crazy thing about, I feel like, Spain and Europe is like there's just no reason for like half the roads to exist. So like they're outside of cycling. You'll be on this back road. You'll be on it for 30 miles. You might see one car, and you'll just be shocked. You're like, why is this guy back there? There'll be 3 highways going to the same place, but there'll be 40 just like separate roads that just like somehow connect, 10 miles down the highway. And, there's just an endless possibilities of roads and back roads. And it's so easy just to get lost out there and just, and not like, oh shit, I'm lost, I'm really scared, but just like, this is amazing. Like, had I never know this there, I've been there 8 years and I'm still discovering new roads. And it's pretty special. It's one of my favorite places in the world to ride. So we see a lot of people like, retired from the UK or something that, come to Girona to ride for a week and straight up never leave. So spend a week there, like, what, buy a place the next day and then just live there. So I think it's pretty awesome. The food is also, it's pretty incredible. I think you probably really enjoy it, experiencing it a bit more. And I think it has enough of a diverse culture that you can actually explore and be really comfortable there and just relax and enjoy.
So I'm guessing you're saying you're retiring there when you eventually is what I'm getting, because it's
fun. Probably not. I mean, like they don't know how to cook brisket. Yeah, they don't know how to smoke brisket.
But you know what? You can bring the brisket. I think that's what's really cool.
For sure.
Them, I think they would be enamored by it. I think so. You have built-in train. I mean, you've got people to ride with all the time. The food, like, there's so much food. Spain is like this monster of deliciousness, right? They may not have brisket, but they have jamon.
Yeah, jamon iberico. Like the first year I was in Girona, there's this. I remember I did the Vuelta, my Neo Pro year, and after 2 weeks, I was just fried. I ended up having to pull out of the race because I just couldn't continue. And I went to this like pretty dark place afterwards, and I'd wake up at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'd just like kind of sit there. And then every day, the only time I would leave the house, I did this for 2 weeks straight, was to go down to the local jamon iberico place. And I would just put down a plate, just a huge platter of it. I spent so much money just on jamon iberico. And it was just like, it's the only thing that kept me sane at the moment. But it's so good. And like, I don't know, you can go to Costco and like you see a little egg or something, but that's just disgusting. When you have the real stuff, it blows your mind how much flavor can be just in this like tiny little sliver of meaty goodness.
So when you're riding, do you have cravings for food? Are there things that you like after something big and monstrous, you're like, man, I really could use this? Because that's how I judge a lot of what I need is what my body's telling me when I'm riding. Like after I'm riding, I'm like, you know what? I really want something salty, or I want a burrito, or I want, and I think that to me has been a really great barometer for my own well-being. But do you have those cravings when you're there, especially when you're in Spain, when you can't get something that you may crave from Austin?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my go-to when I am training, if I stop at a gas station here, it's a Reese's and a Dr. Pepper. And those things are they just don't exist in Europe. So I love Reese's and I love Dr. Pepper. So I definitely crave that a lot. But I have a pretty big sweet tooth, which kind of can get me in trouble at some points. But I would say the biggest thing that I crave, because I generally try to cut this out when I'm training hard and peaking and trying to lose weight, is just a big fat steak. And one thing that Spain does so much better is having like dry aged steak. And we can go to butcher and get like an 80-day, 90-day dry aged steak. And this, they have the Rubia Gallega kind of meat there from all that the special cows. And I can just go get one of those and, it's like a quarter of the price it would be in America, and I could just cook it at my house. And for me, like that, the flavors in those things is just amazing. And yeah, that's one thing that I really actually miss about Spain, and that's like my biggest comfort. My biggest comfort meal when I'm home from a big block of like racing or whatever is a big fat kilogram of steak.
I mean, I get it. You know, your body's craving, you know, it's craving protein, it's craving iron and mineral, and it has all that. But also the dry age. I think the dry age is definitely a craving component for a lot of people. You have that umami olfactory sense here. And it's just, you know, and paired with some amazing, really fresh pressed olive oil, and you're just win-win, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's so buttery. Like, yeah, I'm definitely a guy that eats the grizzle and eats the fat off the steak. And it's like, it's a whole package, you know. I get it all, and I gnaw on the bones. But like, that's where you get that really intense flavor. And to me, it's I told my wife I already started looking into it, but I'm fully planning on when I retire and like we're settled into place like all year long. I'm going to get a dry age refrigerator.
Have you seen those chests? They're really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I want one so bad. Like if we spend the whole year in one place, and you know, Girona doesn't make sense because we can get it so easily, but it doesn't really exist here in the States. And if you want to go get a dry aged steak from the butcher, you're paying $100 for a little dinky New York strip. So yeah, that's definitely something I would love to get into, is like figuring out how to dry age steak. But then you start researching, you can dry age anything. You know, I saw someone dry age a whole tuna. So,
you can dry age. You know, what's really beautiful is whole duck. Dry aging your duck. But so the beef that you're getting is it the older beef? You know, like you're talking, I like in the States, we use this local company that is selling dairy cattle. So they're 7 years old before they go to the pasture, because dairy cattle, right? So they're like, I like to say they're like pampered beef, right? Because, you know, there are no hormones, none of all that stuff, because it's an organic dairy farm, right? So then those cattle go to pasture, and that's another year. Most meat that goes to the slaughterhouse is only a year and a half old for cattle. So the beef that when it's older, it's going to have more myoglobin, and it's just going to be a different thing. Then you dry age it. So like, I got to connect you with these guys.
Please. Yeah, please.
They'll ship to you. You can get this, we call it vintage beef or antique beef. And then you can dry age it whole. And then you just do, I mean, it's killer.
Yeah. And the things that you realize, like when you travel, especially in Europe, is like quality is so important. You know, and grocery stores here, they just mass produce anything and everything. And like the biggest note, like you get a bell pepper here, it has no flavor. Like I never really enjoy it. To me, bell peppers you put in a salad for some crunch. But you go to Europe and shoot, I'll just eat a bell pepper like an apple, because it just explodes in your mouth, and you realize that like, I don't know, when things are local, they like, you know, the people that produce them actually care about what they're doing. It makes a big difference. And the same thing goes with meat. Like the quality is so important. You know, it's like these days I don't want to go to the grocery store and just buy ribeye and grill it. To me, it's just not great. You know, if it's not primo and good quality, it's just not even worth it.
So, offline, I'll send you guys the contact. They do drop ship. They do these boxes it'll have a whole bunch of stuff in it. So it'll be like, they'll do heritage birds, they'll do a certain amount of ground beef for burger blend, and then they'll do steaks, and then they'll do pork. And so I'll send you offline. I'll send you. You'll love it, because and then you're like, you'll have it and then you can kind of pick and choose what you want.
So let's do it.
So like when you start looking at, you know, your season coming up and your changes that you're making, and like I said to you before we started this, like if you don't want to talk about anything, just tell me to pound sand. But what do you see, and have you set goals for yourself with upcoming 2022? Because you are transitioning to a new team. You are looking, you know, when you transition to a new team, there's a whole new learning process going on, right? You're working with a new DS. That's director sportif for those folks out there. That's the guy that sits in the car and yells in their ear on a little walkie-talkie. And he does really yell in your ear, don't they?
Oh yeah.
A lot. But you're going to work with a new DS. You've got a whole new team, a squad that you're learning to build a relationship with. What are you setting for yourself as goals for 2022, if you'd like to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm definitely excited about the change of bike exchange next year. I think, when I was looking at teams, I think it actually really is a place where I fit in well into the culture of the team. And to me, that's incredibly important. If you're not happy in the environment that you are, then yeah, I don't know, the passion isn't there, the motivation isn't there. It goes a long way. So I think that I'll fit in really well, and I think I'll really enjoy being part of that environment and the dealing that talking with the team now and getting to know everyone has been really smooth and has felt really natural. So I think that's going to be really important to me going into next year and the next 2 years, I guess. But I think in terms of goals, yeah, I'm really happy to just be in a place that I really feel like believes in me. And that allows me to, I don't know, believe in myself a bit more. And I'm really excited about that. But I love to go defend my national championship title for the TT. And yeah, it'd be nice to add the road race to the resume as well. But yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily know like our exact schedules for the year yet. So it's a lot of it, I think, will be, we'll talk about it at camp next month in December and getting that dialed and saying, okay, this is kind of what the team expects of me. And this allows me to kind of go forward and create the goals that I want and that I can be proud of. So for me, I really just want to get back to racing consistently at a high level. And I think that's a pretty broad answer. But yeah, it's been, the last 2 years, especially in the cycling season, haven't been the greatest for me. And like, I've had moments, I've had like, times that I've, been really good and been able to show what I can do. But yeah, I just feel like I wasn't able to be in a place where I could do that consistently. And so for me, just, showing up at the first race and proving that I am, can be a very valuable member of the team and can help the team have a lot of success and hopefully go and get a few victories for myself. I think that'd be my number one priority for the season.
And DS, that's Maddie White, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So had you interacted with Maddie White in the past?
The first time I talked to him actually was probably, when I started talking to the team. I got reached out and yeah, of course, who he is and he's got a long history in the sport. And, but yeah, I was able to connect with him, get on the phone with him. And yeah, I mean, for me, it was really nice to talk to someone, someone like him. I think it felt really good to connect with him and start to get to know him. And then also just hearing like more or less his reputation, which is really good amongst not only like the guys in the peloton, but the guys outside of it. Cause I think that makes a big difference too. And it's funny, I'll be here in Austin and so many guys know him cause he raced for Discovery or Postal like quite a few years ago. So he's actually been down here in town training as a training camps before. So everyone's had really good things to say about him. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to just kind of building that relationship, not only with him, but the whole team, all their other directors as well, the trainers, and just being part of an environment that really believes in me and motivates me to be better. So excited for it.
I hear they also have a really great chef.
I've heard that too.
I've heard a lot about her, and I've also seen a documentary that they did with her. So you should be really psyched on getting some very delicious food.
Oh, it makes a big difference too. And I've worked with quite a few really good chefs in the past in the sport, but it makes such like good food just makes a big difference, especially when you're 2 weeks into a Grand Tour and you're just like, God, I just don't want to eat anymore. But having something just different every day is it's really nice. So
awesome.
Yeah, you should come cook for us.
I'd love to. Let's figure it out. Talk to Maddie, make it happen. I'll come guest one day for you guys.
Yeah.
You have to okay it with their chef.
Yeah, right. It's a bummer. Yeah, it's a bummer. There's no like Tour of California or Colorado anymore. It's like, that'd be great. So yeah. I
don't know. I'm working to try to get over on the other side of the pond. Hopefully.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's a big goal this year. I think. I turned 50 in April, so maybe we'll come or do something of that nature and ride a bit. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, Europe's a great place to do it, and I don't know. It has everything except good hamburgers and soda.
Okay, because I mean, I can get that here. When I go over
Yeah,
there,
right.
I totally entrench myself in like what's going on, not
Right.
only, in the community, but historically and
Yeah.
culturally. So
No, it's very true. Yeah, we were there for like 10 months out of the year. You get to the point where it's like, oh, I just want a good, juicy burger. And then you realize like that the meat is just like it's half the battle with a good hamburger, So much of it is like the condiments inside and like the biggest thing is if it doesn't have a good bun, it's not good.
yeah,
So
that must be like, it's funny because I've had burgers when I was in Europe and they would like serve it in a baguette, which I actually enjoyed that, but the baguette was too tough. So
yeah,
you bite through the baguette and then the burger shoots out the side or
right. And they didn't.
You got to have it right. It's got to be burger to bun ratio. The texture
Oh yeah,
got to be right. You got to have the right amount of toppings. No ketchup in my world. Different story.
What's in your world then?
I'm pretty straightforward. I do caramelized onions, Gruyere, Dijon lettuce, and if tomatoes aren't in season, if I can't get a nice sliced tomato, what I do is I take Roma tomatoes and I slowly air dry them in the oven so they intensify in flavor. And I put them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, food hack.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's really like, Roma tomatoes are something that we can get pretty much all year.
Yeah.
They're a meatier tomato. So I'll take them, split them in half, and lay them split side up, season them with a little salt and pepper and some fresh thyme and good olive oil. And I'll put them in the convection oven at like 175 and let them dehydrate slowly. So it pulls all the excess moisture out. So you literally have this like super flavor bomb tomato.
Wow. All right, I'm gonna have to do that. Oh, that's
sick. It's a good trick. I mean, you can even take them further and almost make your own like sun-dried tomatoes, but they're and then pack them in olive oil, and that you can make sauces with.
Yeah.
I love them when they're taken down. And those are great on like BLTs. Those are great on club sandwiches, especially in a time when tomatoes aren't great.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you start to realize, like before we had kids, I really enjoyed cooking. And you're always like, your first reaction is to go to this like super intricate like recipe, or just like you have to like put so much stuff into it. But then you start to realize like some of the best things are just the most simple things. It's like why overthink it? Like and you get these all different meats or whatever, and like as long as you have good quality meat, all you need is salt, pepper, fish or whatever. You don't need crazy sauces. You don't need any of this stuff. You just go with what works. So.
Well, let's play this little game. I do this with everybody. There's no wrong answer. It's just your choice. Okay.
Right.
Red or white wine?
Red, for sure.
Coffee.
Coffee. Yeah.
So espresso or cappuccino?
Cappuccino. Yeah.
Hamburger, hot dog?
Hamburger.
Ketchup, mustard?
Ketchup. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Like when you grow up in America, all you have is Heinz mustard, and that's pretty disgusting. It's just not good. Yeah. If you have like a nice Dijon mustard that's like it's got that like spice, and that 100% over ketchup. But when I'm looking at Heinz mustard, Heinz ketchup, I'm choosing ketchup.
Fair answer. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Pasta or noodles?
Noodles. Yeah.
It's a big you got more diversity. Dumplings or ravioli?
Dumplings. Oh, I love Asian cuisine. Yeah.
Burrito, taco?
Oh, taco. Yeah.
Nigiri, sashimi?
Probably nigiri.
Sea urchin or caviar?
I've never had caviar.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's something we're going to work on next time.
Yeah. Let's do it.
We'll do it at the restaurant.
All right.
Dark beer, light beer?
Light beer. IPA. Sorry. IPA. That's my answer with beer. IPA.
It's so interesting. Everybody's got so many different thought processes on beverage. It's such a it's a powerful choice. Right?
Yeah. It defines exactly who you are as a person.
I mean, it definitely does. Like I'm a coffee fanatic. Like
Oh yeah, for
I'll go
sure.
coffee nonstop.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just lost my train of thought. Chocolate or fruit?
Chocolate. Yeah.
Bitter or milk?
Bitter?
Bitter chocolate or milk chocolate?
Oh, bitter. Like dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
Yeah.
Such a better. I love
Yeah. Yeah. Milk chocolate's too easy to eat, you know? Like if I want to slam a bar, then yeah, okay, give me a pretty shitty like Hershey's milk chocolate bar. That's fine. But what the 99% of the time we have dark chocolate in the house, yeah.
So, couple last ones. Biggest food phobia?
Oh man, I'm pretty adventurous with my food. I won't lie. We were in Girona at this kind of ranch house style restaurant, and I was like, I'm just gonna branch out. I got pig trotters, and I did not like pig trotters. Yeah, they were grilled, and I couldn't do it. And I will eat just about anything, but for whatever reason, could not do the pig feet.
Were they braised before, or were they just grilled?
They were just grilled.
Well, that's too tough. They should have braised them, chilled them, then grilled them. Then texturally, it would have been delicious.
Yeah, I mean, like I think they were probably a bit of a delicacy, but yeah.
They're one of my favorite things.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just probably didn't have them.
It's funny. It is a tough thing for people. It's texturally tough. So like if it's not braised first and then chilled and then cooked another way, make it crispy, or you have to tenderize, because that's a tougher cutting.
Yeah. No, I definitely didn't have it right. I'd be willing to try again. And when I say it's my biggest food phobia, sorry, my daughter just walked in.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, I'd be willing to try again. Food phobia though, I don't know. I was in China one time. They had a bunch of like cockroaches that you could just eat off from like a food vendor on the side of the street. That I couldn't do.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that I definitely couldn't do.
Favorite guilty pleasure?
I mean, I think we talked about it, the big steak. Yeah. I'm a big
junk food.
Yeah, favorite junk food. I'm at Reese's. Yeah, definitely Reese's. Also, I grew up eating a lot of Cheetos, and I kind of ventured away from them a couple years. But I've been back on a Cheeto kick recently. So
all the kids are eating taquitos. Is that what they're called?
I don't know. Takis. Yeah, I see that bag all the time. Our daughter got some trick or treating. I was like, why? What are these things? Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Like, yeah, it's like they're trying to be something nice. Here, try.
I know, right? Try some Takis.
No,
the kids. No, I want candy. Yeah, our 3-year-old daughter doesn't want that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I've never even had a Taki in my life, so
I've tried them because my son gave them to me. They're pretty harsh, but they're good.
Teach their own.
Yeah. So, if somebody wants to find you, what you got going on, where you're going to be next, where's the best place for them to look you up?
I mean, I have Instagram and Twitter. I'm not the biggest fan of social media. I think it's pretty easy to just basically display of who you want to be as opposed to actually who you are. And so for that reason, I don't love posting a ton and posting exactly what's going on in my life. It's funny. I'll post stuff that I feel like is super important to me, like family and stuff like that. And no one gives a shit. But I'll post a picture of me riding over a bridge, and everyone's like, "Yeah, this is amazing." And you're just like, I just don't understand it. So, I mean, I have all that stuff. Probably the best places. If you want to see where I am, just follow me on Strava, I guess.
Perfect. That's a great one. And I think, I'm super excited to see what's coming up for you this year. You and I have been in constant contact for quite a bit of time, and it's really fun to see and actually get to hang out for a little bit. And
for sure.
I also look forward to cooking you that dinner. When are you headed to Spain?
Yeah, I think we'll probably go for the season mid-January, early January.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
So we gotta plan a time when I'm going to be down in Houston next.
Yeah, please do. So, no, I mean, yeah, I'll definitely be in Houston a couple times over the next month or two. So
perfect. I look forward to it.
Yeah, let me know when you're there, and then we can go have some red wine and at Rosalie.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah.
Bring the whole fam, and we got spaghetti and meatballs for the kids, and
good stuff. Yeah, no, we went there, and I think right when y'all opened, and had a great time. So it was great. I mean, it was like good food, but also like it was like great location and like really reasonably priced, which is like you just don't see very often these days. So
awesome.
Good stuff.
You feel good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Lawson. I know you got some stuff going on. You got a kiddo wanting your attention.
Yeah. It's about to hit madness. Yeah. So no, it's never a dull moment, but it's fun.
Awesome.
So.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.